All right, we're getting started. This is going live. So, all right, guys, we're gonna go through a couple things today. We're gonna go through two things. Mindset. Let me just pull up the document I had. And setting goals. I think we're gonna touch on setting goals first, setting goals in this job specifically first. And the reason why I want to go through this is because I feel like we have a lot of newer people here, and we have a lot of people that have kind of a warped idea of what their goals should be, what's good, what's bad. And both those two things can be dangerous. If you're out there every day and you see your team getting, 4 leads per person, that's great. They're doing a great job. But it's easy to think that's the expectation when it's not for you. It's easy to get discouraged when you set an unreasonable expectation for yourself, And so these two things these two things are, kind of go together. All right, got this up now. Good. Okay. So if I'm setting goals in this job, I mean, it's tough. Obviously, a lot of people go based on the amount of money that they make or the amount of time that they've been here. I think it's fair to go on the amount of money that you need to make. Obviously, if you are not making what you need to make, then you shouldn't be in a job. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't be where you're at. You can't be. It's like community service. You know what I'm saying? You're not making anything. It's not good to not be able to save. So a lot of people make that their goal. A lot of people make going above that their goal, savings their goal. That's a good way to set a goal. But I think the most important way to set a goal when you join a company is to set a goal based on your expectation of yourself and what you want, right? So for example, if I join this company and I have my mindset on growth, but I don't know what growth is, then yeah, I should probably try to become, or I don't know what I want to do. I should probably try to become the best that there is. Just know that you don't have to be the best canvasser to grow in a position like this. But if you're going for that, if you're disciplining yourself, and you're setting a monetary goal for yourself, then you're gonna have a higher chance of achieving that, right? For me, I like to set minimums for myself, and then I like to set maximums, or not maximums, but I like to set stretch goals for myself. And we do the same thing for the department. So, for example, the company gives us a goal for the department. Let's say it's their goal is 506 this month. Okay, that was the actual goal, right? But on that board, you might see 630, 600? 600. Okay, so it's going to be above that 506. Okay, now traditionally, what we try to do is we try to set it about 130% above that. Hold on one second. Let me figure out what that is. So it should be close to that. That'd be 657. So it's a little bit below that. It gets high when it gets up there to be 130%. Be 657. But we try to set it beyond what the minimum goal is. And then we look at what we want to accomplish, right? So that's what the company sets for us. So what we know we need to accomplish and what we know we need to do above last year. The second goal that we have is based on our monetary goal as a department, right? Our monetary goal is 60 million. Well, we know we need to issue a certain amount of leads to get that monetary goal. So it shouldn't be any different for you, right? So if I'm in this job and I'm setting goals and standards for myself, I know what the company standard is. Okay, the company standard would be a minimum of, well, this is in viewing only. This is a viewing only document. Great. The company goal and standard might be to get a minimum of 2 leads per day. Okay. Sure, that's the company saying. Now, what are you going to get if you get 2 leads a day? Obviously, 10 per week, which is probably going to give you about 5 to 7 demos, probably close to 6. So that's 5 to 7 demos per week. And so if that's all you want, fine, you'll keep your job here. Obviously, it's not bad. I mean, that's the company standard. You'll do fine. And maybe that's enough money for you. Maybe that's, and you might even grow. If you're doing that and you're really good and mature and you do the things that are right, then that might be good enough for you. But if I'm setting a standard for myself, then I'm going to always want to cross whatever threshold I haven't crossed yet, right? So if I get that 2 lead per day standard, my next goal is not going to be to average 3 per day. It might be to get 3 in a day, right? But my goal is going to be to average something like 2.5 per day, something attainable. Where am I finding leads in the margins? Eventually, I'll grow that goal to 3, and then eventually I'll hopefully grow that goal to 4. Wow, I can't speak today. I say that every time I have to speak. Eventually, hopefully 4, and then go beyond that, right? But at some point, you're trying to grow on the margins, and this is where it gets tricky for people. It's easy if you're getting 1 lead per day. It's easy to grow from 1 lead per day to 2. It's harder to grow from 4 leads a day to 5. And so that might not be what you're looking for. You might look for, yeah, a little bit of growth there, but where are you having trouble? Are you having trouble in demo rate? Are you having trouble in set rate, cancellation rate? Where are you having trouble? Because you're probably going to find more on the margins there, right? So if I'm averaging 4 leads per day or something like that, 3 leads per day, if I feel like I've reached maybe not my threshold, I don't want to say that because you're really cutting yourself off. But let's say that I feel like I've reached close to my threshold. Okay. Then I got to start looking at other parts of the job and where I can improve. And that's where I start to look at my demo rate and cancellation rate and other things like that. And I'll find that I can sliver off probably 2 or 3 more demos a month, maybe 4 or 5 more demos a month from my demo rate. Maybe I can sliver off another 1 demo per week from my my cancellation rate, right? And if I do that, then I'm going to grow my numbers much more significantly. So when you're setting a goal, a lot of people don't include this stuff. They don't include their cancellation rate. They don't include demo rate. They don't include things like that. So if I'm setting a proper goal for myself, then what am I doing? Chase, what's your goal? What would you like to see from yourself every day?
Every day at 3 or more for sets and cancellation rate 40 below.
Okay, 40 or below for cancellation rate. Okay, what is your how many leads have you set per day so far this month?
This month.
If you don't know, just say you don't know because I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
If I had to guess, probably 2.5
what's your cancellation rate?
this month. We just checked that and it's 42.
Okay, that factors in everything, or does it just factor in new leads set? Okay. So if you didn't check that, when's the last time you checked cancellation rate before today?
Probably weeks ago.
So is this a goal that you're just making now, or is this a goal that you have like typically?
Well,
It's fine if it's not, that's why we're talking about goal set.
after me, you and Tony talked, I would say 2-3 weeks ago. Kind of had like that mindset of doubling it down. on
Yeah.
it. So
What's your demo rate goal?
demo rate, probably 90 and above. It
Okay.
was shit, like complete shit.
Yeah.
So
It's 100% now, so it's good. Good. All right, cool. And so this is what I would do, guys. I would do this. I would go, okay, just like Chase is doing right now. I'd set goals in each part of the job for myself. So the first goal I'm going to set is if I'm going to come from the perspective of somebody that's brand new here. Okay. My first goal is going to be to get two leads per day. Okay. It's easy to do. Once you get the hang of it, it should be an automatic, easy thing for you. You're not going to run into trouble with it. Once you hit it once or a couple times, then okay, this is easy. This is an easy path. Right. Okay. 2 leads per day is going to give me an average of, there's roughly 26 canvassing leads per month, maybe 24. So that's going to give me about 45 to 50 leads per month. Okay, so let's just say 50 leads per month. Now, this might seem like a lot to everybody, but if I go through the list of people now that are on pace to do that and not on pace to do that, you're going to find there's probably a couple more people that are not on pace to do that than are on pace to do that. Okay, so that's going to give me a goal of 50 leads per month. And then let's say I set my cancellation rate goal at 40% is very low. Let's say that I set it at 45%. Okay. And then I have my demo rate goal of, let's say 88%. Okay. 88% demo rate. Now we have places to track this, right? But I know from this what my goal is then total for demo. So if I have a total of 50 leads set and 45% of them canceled, that means 27 and a half. So 28 are going to go through. And then that means that 24 of those will demo. Okay. So I'll end up with 24 demos for that month. That's going to give me roughly 6 demos per week, right? So 6 demos per week. And then I can find out the monetary amount from there by looking at my pay plan and the amount of hours that I'm working. Okay. So this is an easy way to set a goal. The biggest way to keep tabs on your goal is, okay, weekly, what am I doing? Am I checking enabled weekly? Am I checking daily? If my leads are canceling, how am I trying to regain those cancellations, right? These things are important. Now, as the month goes by, here's what I would challenge you to do is don't change your goal mid-month, change it at the following month. So evaluate what you did. So let's say at the end of the month, I go, okay, cool. I averaged, let's say 2.25 leads per day. Let's say that I averaged then, if I was at that means I was at 54, 56 leads per month. Yeah, 54 will go. Let's say that my cancellation rate though was 63%. And my demo rate was 95%. Okay. All right, so I didn't do bad. I mean, I went above and beyond on my leads per day goal, which means I was above my leads per month goal by a few. My cancellation rate though was pretty bad. My demo rate was very good though. Okay, cancellation rate's obviously the biggest struggle that I have there. So if I'm reevaluating the goals here, I'm not going to change. I'm not going to make anything worse. Cancellation rate's still going to be that 45%. I'm not going to make my lead goal tons higher, right? But I'm not going to set my. I don't know what Chase. If you were to have a leads to 2.25 leads per day, let's say for the month. Okay. What would you make your goal the following month?
Me personally, 2.75 to 3.
Okay. That's a lot of difference. That's a lot of difference. Okay. Caleb, what would you make yours if you had to
if I had to increase my goal from 2.5 to higher?
I can't hear a word you're saying. You're not muted either. My computer's just giving me trouble today, dude. It's okay.
So-
Here we go. All right.
You're
say something.
asking. You're asking if I was increasing it from
It's okay.
2.5.
Just
What
type it
would
in
I?
the chat. Type in the chat and I'll say it. What about you? What do you make yours? 2.25. 2.5. Okay. Cool. Dylan, if you want to put something in the chat too, that'd be great. All right, 2.5. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think 2.5 is reasonable. I mean, Chase, if you want to go for 3, great. That's a lot more leads when you break it down for the month. Let me see what that would be. So if you go straight to 3, then you're talking about 75 leads in the month. Okay. If you go to 2.5, then you're talking about 60 leads. So it's still a good amount of leads. You're 6 leads over what you were actually at, and you're doing a very good job. Okay, so Dylan says 2.5 leads to maintain the rest. Yeah, from the original goal. Yeah, I agree. I mean, with cancellation rate, look, if you're getting that many leads, it's not tough to maintain a good cancellation rate there. It's not tough to maintain a 45%. I mean, we see people do it every month, but that's going to be your constant focus, I think. Demo rate shouldn't change much. I would not change the demo rate to 95%. I think it's dangerous to do at that point. Maybe 90%, fine. But I mean, I think at that point, 88, 90%. I mean, you're maybe playing with one lead there. I think trying to maintain the 95% while focusing on cancellation rates is important. Cancellation rate, obviously, is the biggest focus here, though. I mean, you had a 20% higher cancellation rate than you wanted to have. Does that make sense? Okay. And that's what your focus is going to be on. If you put your focus too much on lead amount, and this is a problem people have, is that they don't focus on anything. It's not, I mean, it's not they're not doing anything, or they don't want to focus on anything, but they don't say, oh, okay, cancellation rate's my focus. They just go try to get more leads. You know what I'm saying? Or they use cancellation rate as the excuse as to why they got less leads. Well, I was trying to focus on my cancellation rate, so I got 20 leads this month. And and usually their cancellation rate's not going to be much better than it was at. You're not going to see it drop by 20%. And even if you did, it's not worth it. I'd rather you have 54 leads at a 63% cancellation rate than 20 leads at a 40% cancellation rate any month. You'd rather the same thing too. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay. When it comes to setting your goals for growth, you got to be reasonable. When you look at the path that I took here in the company, not everybody's going to have the same path, and for different reasons. Okay. So for me, when I started with the company, I benefited a little bit from the fact that they had not had a path for growth. So whenever I grew the company, it was a new thing, that growth was a new thing for the company. And so they didn't really know how to handle it. That being said, the pay was not beneficial. You know, I mean, we got paid in the beginning of when I first went to management, we got paid for our personal production and $5 per demo. That's it for a team. $5 per demo for a team. We had to take our own cars out there. We got a small gas allowance, but it didn't equate to the gas that it took to get out the territory. It was not a good situation. And we could only fit a maximum like 4 people on our team because of the fact that we had to use our own cars too. So that changed over time. But the benefit was that someone like myself with no experience, with a lack of skill in that, could do well in that environment either way. You know what I'm saying? Now we benefit from the fact that you can grow quickly and that the pay is much higher and that you can continue to grow in the company. That being said, what this does to a lot of people is it sets an unreasonable expectation for growth right away. And so they come in, no experience or anything like that. And that's fine. And they might be great at the job. They might, really understand things, whatever, but they have a good month or two and they think that they're supposed to grow into either sales or management. The tough part with that is that there's no sustained success there. I cannot speak to it. And so what ends up happening is if you put that person in the wrong position, the wrong job, then they're going to fail and you're setting them up for failure. So you're doing a negative thing for them. Now, use an example. One for each department, one for sales and one for management. We had a guy, I'm not going to say his name. You'll remember him. I'll tell you after. But he was a great canvasser and a great guy. Just really good person, really nice guy. And he went into management because, he put a lot of effort in. He deserved it. But it wasn't a super short period of time. It was 6-8 months, something like that. It wasn't like it was a month and then he went into management, but he was a very nice guy. He had a lot of problems though, when it came to A, performing the job in front of other people, and B, when it came to managing those people. And whenever he had to make a tough decision, it was very difficult for him to make. You could tell it affected him emotionally. And because he didn't last long in the job. Now you take someone like that, for example, if that person has another 6 months, if we don't throw that person in that position, he had earned it. He had earned the right to go for it. But if we don't throw him in that position for another 6 months, and instead we put him in maybe some more uncomfortable positions by having him follow training and stuff like that, coming to meetings with us that are more difficult, stuff like that. And maybe he has a proper training to do the job long term, but he lasted a couple months because it just ate him alive. Whenever he had to let somebody go or anything like that, he just didn't like that part of the job. I don't like that part of the job neither. Only Andrew does, but it's something that you have to be able to tolerate. Oh yeah, he doesn't give a shit. I would not hire many managers' best friends. If they had a best friend and he wanted to hire him, I'd be like, that's fine, no problem, because he would fire him definitely. Doesn't matter. And he enjoyed every second of it. It didn't work out. It ended up, and I think, keep in mind, so that what this does then is, you take a guy who's good at the job canvassing, he's making $1,000 a week canvassing, he's doing a good job. And you put him in a job where he can maybe make double that, but he ends up screwing it up and he doesn't make half of that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's not doing anything good for that person, The second example is someone that went into sales. And this guy, he did everything he needed to do in our department, but he definitely didn't have the maturity level to work independently and do things himself and have to go, take responsibility for these things and whatnot. It just wasn't, it didn't work out for him at all. And it's unfortunate because I think, again, with the proper amount of training, with the amount of maturing, if things changed in his personal life where he had more personal responsibility and things like that, things that he had to work for, then I think we'd see a much different result than we saw from that same person in that job. So it's you have to be patient with yourself, because I always tell people, when you go into management, for example, it's very easy to manage 3 people. It's very difficult to manage 8. You know what I'm saying? You have to grow your ability to manage situations and people, your ability to communicate with people significantly before you get to a higher amount of employees, because it will really screw you up. Because our jobs in management, for example, they're very in depth. You're working with people on a daily basis. It's not like you're coming in and you're clicking a couple buttons or whatever, people go do their thing. No, it's very hands-on. You have to really get involved. And so being patient is extremely important. Same thing with sales too. It's a different environment. It's a completely different, the customer's now committing money behind what you're doing. And so the trouble is, if you take, somebody that is, let's say, younger, that doesn't have any experience or anything like that, and they do great with door to door because they're very good at pushing the appointment, to the customer, then that's fine. They might be fine with that. But the second that they go in to do a sales job, for example, and they have to lay out pricing and sit with that customer for an hour and a half and have that customer be pissed off at them in the in the house for an hour and a half, it's a different story. They fall apart. You know, they can't handle it. They walk out early. They don't sell anything, you know. Or, you know, there was a guy up in Boston, for example, great guy, older guy actually, but he would make a ton of money for 3 months. He was the best guy in the country. His name was John something, I forget. And then he'd disappear for 3 months, like literally just disappear, like just not show up to his leads one day, disappear for 3 months, and he'd be out partying up in Jamaica, something like that for 3 months. He'd come back needing money. You know, the guy he couldn't handle the environment that he was in. Getting a large paycheck at one time and not, you know, weekly really screwed with him. So there's different elements to each job. And so setting your goals, it's important. You don't want to put yourself in a position that you can't handle. And I think the people that are most self-aware about this do the best ultimately. So I've had people that have said, you know, to me, you know, look, I'd love to do a management role, but I just don't think I'm ready yet because I don't think I'm ready to take on other people's problems. So great, that's a lot of self-awareness. We're going to talk about that in a couple minutes. Self-awareness. It's a lot of self-awareness to know that and to think about that. So when you go to set goals for yourself, yeah, I get it. You know, canvassing can be difficult. You're going door to door. You might want to move on from doing that. You're sick of it. You're bored with it, whatever. Okay, I get it. But you're talking about 6 months or a year or whatever of your long life. And it's not worth screwing up your entire career path for, you know, because you want to get into something 6 months early or, you know, a year early or whatever. It's not worth it. Gain as much experience as you get. And I think that your bandwidth and ability to gain experience and knowledge really dictates and shows how well you'll be at whatever job you're going for. Make sense? Okay. All right. So we're going to go into mindset. I just wanted to take that, you know, enter the mindset section there. Give me a second. I'm going to use the restroom quick and then we're going to go right into that. Any questions on goal setting, by the way, too? Okay, we'll get into the fun stuff now. Second. I'm going to try to make this last just until 12 o'clock because me and Tony are working together from 12 to 2. So I'm trying to expedite this as much as possible, but give me 1 second.
I'm gonna take all my cards.
I want to take all your cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not selling all your cards. So there's no end to that. One jersey is one thing, a bunch of cards is another thing. No, thank you. I gotta sell my own cards.
Like, give it to you,
What are you guys doing?
a lump sum.
You guys making little gestures at each other?
Oh, no, he wants your, one of your helmets.
Oh, yeah, you can buy it. It's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm not trading you a Joe
Jersey
Thomas
is
jersey
sold
for
out
it.
for-
No, you're already mine.
Hey, that was coming. It goes back out to Don's desk.
You can give me the jersey and $275 for it.
But without the jersey, 276.
No, 300.
Sure. I'll let you sign it.
All right. The let's get into mindset, okay? All right, so these guys are getting kind of weird over here. I didn't know what you guys you were poking each other's noses or something like that. I thought that you guys had a thing going on for a second there. I was like, oh, that's cute. You guys are missing out here in the office. There's some weird stuff going on. Per usual. The mindset when it comes to this job is, well, I'll say this as a matter of fact, mindset is the almost sole reason that people leave or stay in this job, do well or stay or don't do well. I mean, you could break it down to mindset, really, because you can throw so much in there. Dealing with customer objections, positivity, negativity, whatever. You can take all of that that stuff. It's all in that mindset experience. So, I mean, this is a set of attitudes that somebody has. That's the definition of mindset. So I'd ask you guys this: think about people in your life, okay? And it could be at work, it could be outside of work. Think of people that always have a negative or always have a positive mindset. Now, don't be tricked neither, because there's plenty of people out there that have a very negative mindset that come off positive sometimes. You ever know these people? Like, I had a girlfriend like that for a while. What's up, man? How you doing?
Brought the squad, so I'm gonna bomb your meeting.
Sounds good. Excellent. We are on YouTube right now. I'm gonna pause this real quick. Hold on one second. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Sorry, we had some visitors for a second. Only my own kids run for me like that typically. All right, so you think of these people in your life, right? Okay, I had this. That's what I was saying. I had this girlfriend before who would always like say that she was, oh, I'm so happy to say, but then like he would just cry all like it was miserable. You know what I'm saying? Like you're trying to convince yourself of this, but it's not working. You know what I'm saying? Everything was a problem. Everything was depressing. Oh man, my shoe came untied. It's terrible. Like we gotta stop the day and cry about it for an hour and a half. You know what I'm saying? And so, but think about the people in your life and think about a truly honest, like just a really happy person that you never see get down, that you never see, and you're going to find, similarities between these people. And it's not always going to be the richest person. It's always going to be the person that has the most success or whatever. But think about that person. Think about the person in your life that is extremely negative. Hopefully that maybe you've got them out of your life, but that you had that was extremely negative all the time. Think about that, right? You guys have somebody in your mind? Yeah. Okay, now give me their first and last name. I'm just kidding. All right. So I got a couple people in my mind too, right? And I think about when I think about someone that's I'll give an example. Someone that's really depressing all the time. I have a friend who I hope he doesn't see this, you know exactly who it is. I grew up with him. Always a smart guy, always a nice guy. Never he always had a lot of friends, always around a lot of people, stuff like that. But as I started working for the company, he went straight to college, and he always had better grades. He's the only person I knew really that went to college. And he went to college for a long time. This dude went to college for 10 years, to get one degree. That's not even a doctorate. It's social sciences and stuff like that. He kept switching majors, and so he did this. And it was expensive. I mean, you're talking UMass, stuff like that, good schools. And he kept switching over and over again. And eventually he graduates with a degree in, like I said, like some sort of social science. I wasn't kidding about that. And then he goes, okay, I'm gonna get my master's. And he's 1 credit or 2 credits away from getting his master's. And he mentally breaks down and goes, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go into this as a business. Now he's 31 years old. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't kidding about the 10-year thing. I meant it. Maybe more than 10 years. So then he calls me, and he's like, and he's all drunk and everything. And you can tell when he's in one of these moods because he drinks a lot. And I'm like, man, like I don't even know what to say. You should just get it anyways. You know what I'm saying? You got 1 credit left. I was 1 credit away from a master's in anything, baking, then I would get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, why not at that point, right? They have a master's in baking. Can you get that? Yeah.
Somewhere.
Some sort of certificate or something like that. So I say to him, look, I'm sorry. And I said, even, you're going to find something. I mean, your experience that you've gained, you're going to find something. No talking to him, completely negative. He ends up having to go into a facility because of this and everything like that. Now, this guy, he is in his mind, he's wasted 10 years of potential relationships, kids, all these things. He was so hyper focused on school all of the time. He just didn't know what he wanted to do. And he has to pull himself out of this deep, deep depression. And now he's 34 years old, and he works as a property manager or something like that. You know what I'm saying? A job that he could have got out of high school, no problem. Because he did go to a vocational school. So, I mean, it sucks. That really sucks to realize that you skipped 15 years of your life. That's awful, And when I was making money at this company, he was spending money at college doing something he never wanted to do. It's depressing. But because of this has controlled his entire life. Everything in his life comes back to him trying to convince himself that he's doing better than he feels like he needs to, right? So anytime you're with him, it's he's trying to talk up his job, but then he can't convince himself of it. So it gets really depressing. It's something that it's like it sucks. Like, I don't know how much time I can spend around you. You know what I'm saying? It's actually coming up this next week. Hang out for a couple days. It's coming up Thursday. We're going to a concert on Saturday. No, I mean, when he is self-aware enough to reach out when there's a problem now. But for a long time, it was like, okay, I watched all these people in my life, get themselves into trouble and put themselves in very dangerous situations. And now I got this one friend that I just didn't think was going to make it out of it. So it's a very difficult experience. We all know people like that just misery is their entire world. You know what I'm saying? That's everything to them. It almost seems like they attract it, right? And so you have to, the first step of this, when you're trying to realize that your mindset is negative and positive or whatever, when you're out there dealing with a job like this, you have to be able to have a positive mindset, because nothing's going to happen the exact way that you want it to, right? I mean, you're not going to have a situation where you go out there and you just 5 leads every day, no problem, right? You're not going to go out there and have a situation where, oh, okay, cool, I want to grow in sales or management, no problem, no issue. Won't be any effort at all, no issue, right? You're not going to have situations like that. It doesn't happen. So when people are in this job, one of the number one reasons why they fail at this job is because they get into a situation where they're extremely negative and it's either all their fault or it's not their fault at all. It's one of those two things, right? It's either A, I'm just not good at this. There's no way I don't know how people even do this, right? Which we all know. You have a script, you have rebuttals. That's going to get half the job done. The rest of it is just being reasonable and understanding, with yourself. It's not difficult, once you get the hang of it. Okay. So, or you have people that convince themselves that it's the customers and it's the other people on their team. It's the training that they got. We had a situation before, Cole, remember this, Andrew remembers this. We had a guy who was in our events department during COVID, when we were doing events, and he transitioned into canvassing. And I did a full training week with him and the couple other people that were in training that had never done it before. And we went through everything, just like training program now, give or take, a couple things here or there, but we went through everything. And there was a couple people in the training class that were doing fine, and then there was him. And he was not doing very well at all. And he says to Cole, he goes, well, yeah, Paul never taught us about window problems at all. Really? Okay, so Cole comes to me, he goes, oh, I know it's not true because all these other guys, they were in the same training class, right? He didn't miss a day or nothing like that. So I said, okay, bring him in. So we sat down right there, and Andrew was here, and I said, hey, what's wrong, man? You're not doing that well. He goes, oh, no, nothing. I just feel like I might have missed some stuff in training that I should have gotten this and that. Like I just didn't, I just skipped it or whatever. I didn't study enough. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's the only problem then? So you went through everything. You didn't study everything. And he goes, yeah, no, I don't feel like I didn't get it. I'm like, okay, so you didn't tell anybody that you didn't learn it then, that nobody taught it to you then. And then I'm like, okay, so you told Cole that I didn't teach it to you, right? Is that, and I questioned this guy, and the guy, it was a pretty good time actually. The guy was squirming there, because to this point, he had been able to blame any failure on anybody else or everybody else around him. Cole hadn't taught him anything. I hadn't taught him anything. He didn't know anything, right? And so how could he possibly do well? You see people like this all the time. We had a guy here more recently that was came in, seemed motivated, seemed like he was, all for it and whatnot. But then as soon as he got on the road, it was a little bit cold out that day. It was, oh, well, it's the snow. Oh, I don't even need this job. I have money. I don't need any job. You know what I'm saying? It's just, just ridiculous stuff. And a minute ago, literally, a day ago, you were talking about how motivated you are, how you need to feed your family. And now you've got this massive amount of drug money from that guy.
Yes.
Stolen PlayStations and all this kind of stuff. Crazy person. He comes in with a chain like this on. Right?
He was going to Dubai.
His grills.
He was going to Dubai.
Yeah, interesting person. So, but you get people like that. And that person, that's a good example of something that comes off, by the way, very positive. I'm motivated. I'm basically a motivational speaker, but everything is so negative in their life. Their relationships are all negative. They don't have any real relationships. Their work life sucks. Their home life sucks. They always have a lot of problems. They're always in legal trouble, or they're always in some sort of issue. So the first thing that you have to do when it comes to discovering your mindset is you have to be self-aware. You have to be self-aware because nobody's perfect all the time, right? So this is something that with addiction and with issues like that. That's very important, right? If you go down to, your local methadone clinic and you talk to a couple people, all right, what you're going to see first of all is that most people are not self-aware at all. They're not, unless, if they're not dedicated to their actual recovery, right? Like I go to a place still, I'm not on methadone, but if I go to a place still down here and I go into a counseling program, right? Let's say I go into a group, there'll be so many people that blame their addiction on their father, their mother, their spouse, and not everybody except for themselves. And those are the people that constantly relapse because they haven't figured out the self-awareness part. They haven't been able to say, oh, it's me. It's me that's doing this. It's me that's screwing up my own life, that's screwing up my kid's life, whatever. They haven't been able to figure that out. And so that's the lack of self-awareness is very dangerous. The second part of this is identifying negative thoughts. So, usually there's if you're self-aware, this should be pretty easy, but usually there's signs that negative thoughts are coming up, right? So for example, let's say I'm here at work, right? Let's say that I get a migraine, and Andrew gets migraines all the time, but let's say that I can, when you go get a migraine, Andrew, how long before you get a migraine can you tell that it's gonna happen?
It's like maybe an hour before.
An hour before? Yeah, I usually can tell the night before, because my migraines almost always come in the morning when I wake up. But I can tell the night before, okay, I'm gonna have a migraine, right? And it gives me some time to deal with it, though. It gives me some time to figure it out. And sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. But it gives me time. Okay, I can see that coming. I can see the pain coming, right? Negative thoughts are the same way, usually. Okay, something can trigger them, sure, no doubt. I mean, if you're in a relationship that's bad, if you're constantly fighting with a spouse or friends or family or whatever, then yeah, sure, you're going to have a lot of negative thoughts, a lot of things pushing them onto you, but typically you can see them starting, right? I mean, if you wake up in the morning and you go get a coffee and you spill it on your lap, and then you go to get shorts and you realize that somebody stole your card and you don't have a card to buy shorts, now you have, it looks like piss all over your pants and yeah, you can see a tough day coming, right? And you start to convince yourself of it. You have to be able to identify those negative thoughts. The third one is accept negative thoughts and then replace them with positives. Yes, it's hard to look at, your coffee on your crotch as a positive. Okay. It's hard to, but it's a good reason to get new shorts, right? So that's a good thing. But you're not gonna, I'm not stupid. You're not gonna go, oh man, I just spilled coffee on my crotch. I feel great about this. Everything's about to be great today. No, obviously, but you can recognize that that's just a stupid little thing that it's an easy fix. You know what I'm saying? It's an easy fix, as long as it wasn't that hot. If it was too hot, then I don't know. But as long as it wasn't that hot, then you're fine. The accepting them though, understanding where they're coming from. If let's say, for example, I go into work and let's say something happens and my team's getting reprimanded for something because they did something wrong, and I know I wasn't involved, right? I know I didn't do anything, right? The proper response is not going to be to aggressively freak out or whatever. No, I gotta accept, okay, what can I learn from this situation? And what is the positive here? Maybe the team's behaviors will be, how can I help? How can I help? How can I dictate that positive behavior? Right? If let's say, for example, I'm on the road and I have a great day and I get back in the van and I'm super happy. And then the next 3 people that get in are just miserable because they had a terrible day. Okay, how can I positively impact their day more, right? How can I make their day better? So identify and accept the negative thoughts and replace them with positives. Take constructive criticism. Negative people do not take constructive criticism well. They might say they do, they just do not, If you can learn to accept constructive criticism, then you can develop a mindset that's way more positive. Okay? It's a fact. I mean, when you think about it, inherently, if I sit down with you, okay, and I am trying to help, I have no incentive not to help. If you do well, then I do well. If you do well, then your manager does well, right? There's no incentive not to help. Even if I'm the most selfish individual in the world, any information I give you should not be meant to hurt you. That would be stupid on my part. It'd be a bad business decision, even if I'm very selfish, right? It would just not make sense. Okay. So that being said, when you sit down and you get good constructive, even if it's bad constructive criticism, if it's like it's wrong, it's not. If you can't take that, then it shows that you are a negative person. That you're not in a positive place. You have to be able to take that, right? And then track the cause of negative thoughts. So, for example, when you're having a bad day, especially if it's frequently, write down why, right? As things happen, keep a little journal with you or something like that and write down why, a piece of paper, write down why. Man, I'm in a shitty mood now. Why? And then you'll see a trend, okay? You'll see, well, I'm in a shitty mood because my spouse, and then my spouse, and then my spouse, and then, oh, something happened at work, then my spouse, and my spouse. Well, you should probably sit down and talk to your spouse at that point, right? Probably sit down and talk to your spouse, right? So you'll see trends, and then at that point, it's easier to address those trends. If it's not going to be the customer typically, for example, in a job like this, if you go throughout your day and the customer is just always mean to you, and you get back at the end of the day, and you're like, man, everybody was an asshole. Everybody was just awful. I don't even know what I was doing. Everybody's just so bad, right? There's probably a behavior that you can track back to that put you in a negative mood that then help the customers get there as well, right? We dealt with this pretty recently with an employee. Where a customer was not appropriate to them, not nice to them or whatever, made a bad decision, then it wasn't, nothing happened or nothing like that, just like, walked after him, like looking for them, whatever. And I said, okay, let's examine this behavior, right? So we went back to when he knocked on the person's door, and then we tracked that behavior. And it turns out in the middle there were two or three things that were said by the employee that were definitely meant to disrespect. They were definitely negative things, right? They weren't overt. He didn't go, "Oh, you're an asshole" to the customer. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, he wouldn't be here, but he was intentional in the way that he spoke about the customer. Okay. So like the customer's wife, for example, came outside and was like, "Get inside," to her husband. And he said, "You better do what your wife said and get inside." Like, that's obviously condescending. Okay. Obviously condescending. Right. Not going to set you off on the right path. That's for sure. Okay. All right. 1 second. We're going to jump into the types of negative thoughts in a second. Let's take like a 2-minute break. Yeah, please. If you timestamp it, then I won't have to. I never get it done. I always say I want to, and then I never do. Okay. And that's the thing about mindset, right? We're talking about like timestamping this video, for example, is that it's something that you do want to have a constant reminder that it's an issue that exists, because there's a trigger for it all the time. And it's the same thing with positive mindset too, by the way. Like we've all been in situations, I'm sure, where we get super motivated to do something, right? So like, let's say it's a new job, or maybe it's not even a new job, but you're at your job and you something is a catalyst for it. You go out and you have a great day. And the next day is so much easier. You feel so much more motivated, and you're like, man, where the hell did this energy come from? You know what I'm saying? That's something that can happen. Or a new relationship, right? Maybe it was somebody like all what I'm talking about, right, Chase? And you get really excited, and it's super exciting. And you're what do you guys do? Go run errands together or something like that? And so you get super excited, super positive about it. And so it causes you to make positive changes in your life. Have you made a lot of positive changes recently? Yeah. Good. Maybe you get to the gym more, or maybe I don't know. You make positive changes that benefit you, that better you. That being said, when things don't go right and you get a negative mindset, same thing, right? The opposite, right? So you have a bad day at work, or maybe a bad month at work. Something happens, you I don't know. I mean, it could be anything, but you put yourself in a place where the growth is no longer there. You take yourself out of contention for any kind of growth, and you put yourself in a place where you're losing income. And for what? And so, neutral mindset's fine too. It really is. I mean, you're gonna like most of the time, if you're steady most of the time, guys, and there's something that's a positive catalyst all the time, but you're always steady, fine. That's great. You know what I'm saying? It's great. But we see so many people, and you've seen this on your team, where they get themselves in a negative mindset, and you can see they come in different in the day. They come in different. You can see that they're different. And then every experience that you have with that person is different. They're shorter. They not shorter like Andrew. I mean, like shorter, with people, the way they deal with customers, so on and so forth. They're very, it's very different. Talking with them is a different experience, like a different person. And you can see this. You can see this change to a negative mindset. Okay. Not what we want to do, right? So there's different types of negative thoughts. Okay. The first one is, and this is what we're going to go through right now. All right, so jumping to conclusions is the first one, okay? And we've all been there before too, right? I mean, it's not, who has jumped to conclusions in a relationship before? No, never have? I have, definitely. Yeah, definitely, right? Yeah, right. I mean, my thing is this, is like when you guys, I know Andrew does the same thing. When you grow up around people like I grew up around, it's like you have to assume that every person you date is just a terrible human being. You know what I'm saying? Like you've seen so many bad people do negative things that you're just like, okay, this is, and it's the same the other way around too. And so that's something, same thing with a job too. You might jump to conclusions. If I let's say that I don't know, let's say that a sales rep, right? I've had people come up to me and, a sales rep doesn't do the right thing on a lead, and they go out there and they don't give a quote, they should have, whatever, right? And we're going to pay them that, but the conclusion obviously always is they intentionally screwed that up, right? Or with the call center, I hear all the time. Every time I hear somebody complain about, not every time, but complain about the call center doing something wrong, it's like they don't recognize that they were new at their job at one point too. You know what I'm saying? And so the conclusion always is they try to screw up my stuff, right? So this distortion involves making assumptions about what others are thinking and making negative assumptions about how events will turn out. Okay, so that's something that you can do in a negative way. And people don't really do that much in a positive way. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to have trouble with this word. Catastrophizing. Catastrophizing? Catastrophizing. There you go. I knew I wasn't going to get that one, man. It is a word. Yeah, it is a word. Yeah. This pattern of negative thinking is characterized by always assuming that the worst possible outcome will happen without considering more likely and realistic possibilities. I remember during COVID, it was probably July, August, and Andrew told me that America was going to be invaded in September. Remember that? You know? Yeah, you definitely did. Yeah, you did. The UN was going to be here, boots on the ground. Yeah,
No, it didn't.
he did.
Don't
Yeah, don't believe it. Don't believe it.
Could I have Spain the ocean? Number one, that shit is number one, that shit is true. Number two. But go for it. I was one who told you that, yeah, COVID's coming.
Yeah, no, it's not, but that word, it can be done, definitely, the America's gonna blow up tomorrow, this and that. It's and people did this in 2012. There, I'll take it away from you. And people did this in 2012. You remember they had that movie that came out, it was the Mayan calendar and the world's gonna end and all this stuff, and it was like the worst part, and nothing happened at all. Or the year 2000, right? I mean, the year 2000 was the same thing. Everything's gonna end. A lot of you guys probably don't remember that, but it was the same thing. I mean, I remember where I was. I remember being in a hotel room in Cape Cod. And the news was all like, oh my God, like what's going to happen? And it was like, what machines were going to reset to zero and whatever the hell was going on. It was stupid, but people were at the worst possible outcome was always going to happen. Right. It's a good way to be miserable, and it's the same thing with your, it's people do this a lot of times with their job, right? They assume, I can't say how many times I sat down with somebody to go through like a PDP and like in in like a productive way where we're gonna do training and stuff like that, they go, oh my God, I thought I was gonna get fired. I thought I was gonna get fired, you know? It's like, okay, well, why? I mean, that's obviously in your mind. There's not a reason that should be, if it's in your mind, there's a problem, right? Overgeneralization. This pattern is marked by a tendency to apply what happened in one experience to all future experiences. This can make negative experiences seem unavoidable and contribute to feelings of anxiety. And we've all seen this before too, you know. I mean, again, I think we all do this to an extent, right? And I've seen this mostly, I guess, in relationships where you know you get into a relationship and then you assume that person is going to be just like every other person you ever met, or you get into a job and you assume it's going to be just as miserable as every experience ever was. So, you know, the first negative thing that happens, you're out on it, right? Not something you want to do. I mean, it's a terrible illness to have to deal with something like that. And that's what it is. I mean, with something like that, that's an illness like that. Like you're going to put yourself in a place where that becomes a mental illness because of how you're dealing with problems, right? Labeling. When people label themselves in a negative way, it affects how they feel about themselves in different contexts. Someone who labels themselves as bad at math, for example, will usually, I always say I'm terrible at math and I've never gotten better because of it. You know what I'm saying? That's for sure. My kid who's in, I don't even know, 4th grade, something like that, 5th grade, I don't know, something like that. I can't remember. I don't remember things like that. But she brings home her math and I'm just, nope, can't do it. There's no way. Definitely cannot do it. I don't know what that means. Multiplication, never heard of it. Yeah. Ask your mom. I have no idea. But typically that, you know, and you see this all the time. Yeah, I'm a bad salesman, right? I mean, I've had people in interviews say that, and we obviously don't typically hire them or whatever, but you can really put yourself in kind of a negative place, you know, when you do that, right? And so, I mean, the last time I said I was a bad bowler, I had 3 strikes in a row. You know what I'm saying? So maybe if I just say I'm bad at things, then I just get better at them, you know? I don't think that's the way it works, but should statements. So, you know, think about it like, you know, I should have done this, I should have done that. Thinking marked by a should statement contributes to negative perspective by only thinking in terms of what you ought to have been, done. Such statements are often unrealistic and cause people to feel defeated and pessimistic about their ability to succeed. And this is something that I struggle with when it comes to like answering emails, for example. I'm terrible at checking my email. I never check my email. And I'm getting much better at it now. But I've always been the bad email guy. You know what I'm saying? The guy who never checks his email. And it's always been all right. It's been like a joke. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, he never checks his email or whatever. But it's affected my career. It's affected my career in ways that I didn't even think of. So, for example, I got this conference that I'm going to that I have to speak at. That's really that I get on the phone with the guy and I'm like, hey, why didn't you consult me more with this? You know, I mean, the agenda is not great. Why didn't you consult me more? He's like, I emailed you 4 times. I'm like, oh, I didn't get it. I didn't see him, you know. I should have checked my email. I guess I should have checked my email. Emotional reasoning. This involves assuming that something is true based on your emotional response to it. For example, if you're feeling nervous, emotional reasoning will lead you to conclude that you must be in danger. This can escalate negative feelings and increase anxiety. And I think we've been there before too, right? Like it's not, and this is where like think about like a haunted house, right? Or like something like that. Nothing is going to happen to you. Like the amount of people that have died from being murdered at haunted houses, I would have to imagine it's in like the 5-10 range. Can't be that bad. You know what I'm saying? So why do people get scared of haunted houses? Like, why do you know, it's a little bit unreasonable when you think about it, right? A little bit, right? No, it's pretty. It's yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't get the same anxiety from getting in a plane. Most people don't, you know. But most people, when they go to a haunted house, they feel that hand, they scream. It's like just some guy who probably is just in a shitty place in his life, had to get a shitty job, and he's just touching your back. Like it's not. Next time you go to a haunted house, when that happens, just treat it like a massage. You know what I'm saying? Just well, can you do that again? You know. But people overreact to it, and I remember being in a haunted house. The scariest haunted house I ever been in my life was in Niagara Falls. And there was nothing in it. It was just completely black. Nothing. You go in and there's nothing there. There's no lights. You can't see anything. You just walk down and around this building and there's nothing. It's just black curtains up everywhere. That's it. You see nothing. It was the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. Because everything, it got like, I have no idea where I am. I don't know what's forward. I don't know what's backward. I have no idea what's going on. I know that me and my wife are the only people that are in this place. That's it. There's nobody else there. and that like is in this haunted house, because it's a very, like, it's just a house of like, it's, nobody wants to go in it, you know what I'm saying? Nobody's paying money for that except for us. And there's people coming and grabbing your shoulders and stuff like that. But it was the scariest thing in the world because there was nothing there. What? What?
I was just thinking like, no one else wants to pay money just for the black curtains and nothing else.
I didn't realize it was gonna be like that. But it was a scary experience because it's different. When we went to the one down in what do you call it? Universal Studios, you could see everything that was going on, and they had like animatronics jumping out at you. Like that doesn't scare me. You know what I'm saying? A robot rat, an oversized robot rat's not gonna scare me. You know what I'm saying? No matter how loud it is or jumpy it is, it doesn't matter. Some idiot wearing a mask. But if I'm in a pitch black, I can't see a damn thing. I don't know what's forward or back, but I have no idea what's going on. That sucks. Like that's a different situation. But emotional reasoning, tells you're in a bad scenario. Emotional reasoning tells you, oh man, I watched this horror movie, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This guy running at me with a plastic chainsaw is going to kill me. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just, it's not. But if you really think logically about things, and it's not a dangerous situation. It's not a bad situation at all. It's not a scary situation at all. Unless you're in that one that's the McCaney Mansion, or whatever it's called. Yeah. You ever hear about that one? Where they actually torture you? Never heard of that? Yeah, look it up. It's crazy. McKinney or something like that. Yeah, it will pop up if you type it in. Lastly, personalization and blame. This thought pattern involves taking things personally, even when they're not personal. It often leads for people to blame themselves for things they have no control over. And this is something that I think that you ever meet one of those people that say I'm sorry all the time for everything, right? It's not, it really weakens the statement, right? My daughter does this. She says I'm sorry for every. Like it doesn't mean anything. Sorry means nothing to you. You say that word for everything. If I say, hey Lily, oh I'm sorry. For what? For what? What are you sorry for? For you just existing? Like what's wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? But it makes it fake to an extent too, so it's just you can't you got to get things in perspective for yourself. You can't blame yourself for everything. Eventually it's going to lead to a much worse emotional response. So when you're in this job, think about the kind of things that can affect you in this job when it comes to negative mindset. Okay, so first of all, jumping to conclusions, right? So if I'm at a house with a customer and they say a negative thing, or they say something that I don't like, or something that's not inherently going to lead directly to a lead, right? Then it's easy for me to jump to the conclusion of I can't set that person, right? If you think about it, when you have somebody come back, let's say, from being on the road, and they say everybody was not interested, or they got one that day, maybe they didn't get anything else, and it was because they ran into a lot of customers that were not interested. Realistically, if I put a different person in that neighborhood, then they probably would have got 4 or 5 leads, right? So how is it the customer's issue then? How can you conclude then, right? How can you conclude then that it wasn't something that you could have done to fix that, right? It wasn't a negative mindset that you put yourself in. How can you come to the conclusion that it's the customer at that point? Does that make sense? And I know it's when you think it out, it makes sense, but it's just, when it comes, what's that word again?
Catastrophe.
Yeah, catastrophizing. Yep. When it comes to this job and that, you look at your goals, you look at monthly goals. A lot of people, for example, go, okay, it's the 15th of the month, basically halfway through the month. I'm not at my goal. There's no way I'm going to hit it. The other day I was on the phone with the girl from North Carolina, and I said, what do you guys want to do this year? Or what are you guys going to do this year in sales? And she goes, well, what do we want to do, or what are we going to do? I was like, well, both. She said, well, I want to do 20 million, but we're probably going to do like 12 or something like that. I'm like, why? Why do you say that? You got like 70 people. She got 50 people now. Well, we're only at 2.3 right now or something. I'm like, so what? Your year starts halfway through the year. Let's say anything from now to June, you're building your department. You can easily hit 20 million in a year in 6 months. So if you do the right thing between now and June, you're preparing yourself. You're getting as many sales as you can get. Let's say you're at 8 million by June. It's just a simple 12 million. You should no problem hit that. But if you're in the mindset that I'm only going to hit 12, then that means that you have zero growth from this month that you're in right now. That's a terrible mindset to have. Overgeneralization, how does that affect this job? So this one is, I'd say, more rare for people, But because if you took the job, I would say this affects people more coming in for the interview, right? If I worked in a sales job before and that sales job didn't go well, for example, if I had been jaded by my first sales experience, which lasted for about 3 weeks with Cutco Knives, then I would have been like, oh, this is a pyramid scheme. I'm not doing this. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where I'd say that affects people more. Same thing with labeling. Labeling yourself as someone that can't deal with people, as not a salesperson, not a marketer. That's dangerous in a job like this. Should statements, that's something that's, well, you know, every time we talk to somebody that about the day, it's funny because people we go, okay, well, no excuses, right? No excuses, just, you know, and then they go, well, yeah, I should have done better. I should have done better with this. It was my fault. I should have done X, Y, and Z. And it seems like that person's taking responsibility, but what's changing? You know what I mean? If they're not, if that responsibility isn't shifting, and, you know, if you're not changing from a negative to positive mindset, then it's not worth taking responsibility for. You know what I'm saying? You could say I should have as much as you want, but what are you going to do the next day to make that actually better? You know, if you have a bad demo rate right now, yeah, there's a lot of things you should have done. Absolutely. Ton of things you should have done. Okay. But what did you not do to get you into that negative mindset, right? And how are you going to fix it, right? Emotional reasoning, again, which involves something that you're assuming something based on your emotional experience, your emotional response to it. We know that our emotions are not always rational, right? I'm trying to think of a good example. Okay, here's a good example. I was going to pick my kids up from the bus stop, and it was the bus drops them off at 4:45, let's say, and it was like 4:46. I'm driving like a maniac and I'm freaking out. And my emotional response is, oh my God, my kid's going to be kidnapped on the side of the road and stuff like that. You know, I almost crashed my car. Now, if I crashed my car, then my kids definitely weren't going to get picked up from the bus stop, right? So I get there and the bus, I see the bus driving by and I'm like, oh my God, where are my kids? This is crazy, right? Well, they stayed on the bus. The bus driver was going to just drop them off on the side of the road. You know what I'm saying? They're still young. When they didn't see a parent there, whatever. The bus came around, dropped them off. We're all good. My emotional response dictated an unreasonable action, right? And that's not what if you live like that, it's a really terrible place to live. Everything is so terrible all the time, right? Personalization and blame. I think this can work two ways. You know, you could either blame yourself all the time or blame other people all the time. Neither one is right. Okay. I tend to think like this, guys, because you see people all the time. Caleb, I went through this with you the other day when you take the team out. There was an issue, a mistake that was made or whatever with mapping that caused us to be in a wrong town or whatever. And, you know, but you called me and I'm like, and I get why you felt upset about it. You didn't want that to be a reflection of what you do. But it's not. I explained to you, I'm like, look, man, it's fine. It happens. It's not a big deal at all. And you got it. But originally it was like, oh man, this is a catastrophic thing. This is a difficult thing. And I blame myself. Well, sure, you can't blame anybody else. Fine. But like, it doesn't matter whether you blame yourself or not. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? It's irrelevant. Let's just figure out now how we fix it. And you did a good job of doing that. You went out and got good leads and stuff like that. But that's something that you really got to make sure that that you want to keep in check, because it's easy to do. It's easy to blame yourself and to stay in that blame, to punish yourself, right? Okay, and that's really what this is about, guys. Is when you get yourself into a negative mindset, it's really impossible to do well at a job like this that really requires a neutral to positive mindset, right? So that's what it doesn't require a positive mindset all the time. Okay, we have plenty of people that are kind of like bland in their emotions that do great, fantastic. Okay, you don't have to be ridiculous all the time. You don't have to, go up skipping to customers' doors and stuff like that. That's fine, but you do have to not have a negative mindset. It's impossible to do a job like this with a negative mindset constantly. You're a reflection of the company. And if the company screams negativity to you, then get the hell out. You don't want to be here. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be here then, right? Doesn't make any sense. Okay. All right. Any questions? No. Okay. You guys got any questions to type, because I can't hear you? Looks like Caleb's typing. Hold on one second. Are you typing, Caleb?
be as important to identify the specific kind of negative mindset in order to correctly deal with it, or do you think it's more like, these are the kinds of things to look out for, and then it's kind of,
Yeah.
deal with the negative mindset as a whole?
I think that, well, first, Caleb just says, I agree that the best way to deal with the situation is just to move forward. It's the best thing that you can do. Absolutely. Yeah. You can't, if you dwell on anything, then it's not going to do anything for you. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it's, this is why I am a very forgiving person. Like, I don't hold grudges towards people at all. Like at all, you know what I mean? It's because it's not because I mean, I did, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you're talking about, I had my cousin get killed, by my foster brother, essentially my mother's boyfriend's foster kid. I had my best friend get shot to death by two of my other friends, right? There's a lot of people there that like there's a lot of resentment that it's something I wasn't angry at these people, but I don't forgive them, but I don't care. Like I care about my family. I don't care about them, about that. Like I'm not going to dwell on that anger, right? You have to move forward. Like what is about, for a long time, I wanted to, I wanted to, do something to these people, right? But then I realized, no, I got to focus on myself and my family, right? So, it's very important to be able to move on from things, So then Dylan says, I have to agree because 2 days that I got to this week, I was worrying about things out of my control, and it affected how I performed, even though I acted professionally. It reflects to the customer that I wasn't confident. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people can see through whatever facade you're trying to build. They can see through it typically, and even if they see through it just a little bit, it can extremely negatively affect things. So Tony, can you rephrase your question again?
The importance of identifying specifically what that negative mindset is, whether it's the generalization of solutions being equally as important as when you deal with it. It's a way to deal with that kind of negative mindset, or do you just kind of say like, hey, this is one of the warning signs of that negative mindset, and then it's kind of person based. That's how I feel it would be more than anything.
Yeah, I think that it depends on whether or not it's a constant, right? I think that if you are constantly in a negative mindset, if you find yourself a couple times a week just like miserable, right? Then I think it's important to be able to go, okay, where is that coming from? You know what I'm saying? Because it's a behavior that should probably be solved, right? If you find that, you just, something happens one day and you're just in a shitty mood because of it, then no, I think just getting yourself out of it's most important, right?
Self-awareness, I think,
would be
one of those things that mitigate that.
100%. I mean, we've talked about this, in the past where it's like, if you put a lot of burden on yourself or on other people for that matter, then you can feel like you're doing a lot more than you have to, right? Like it can feel like very overburdened. And so, I think identifying where that comes from is important to solving it, instead of just band-aiding it, you know what I'm saying? But in the moment, obviously, figuring out how to get rid of that mentality is most important. And a lot of times for people, it's conversation. This is why, as managers and leaders, our job is to identify that in people and then solve it for them and help them solve it, because if I have somebody come in, let's say they're in an extremely negative mood, then I want to be able to recognize that and say, hey, what's going on? And a lot of times you get, oh, no, nothing's going on. Okay, well, fine. Okay. But how do we get you out of this behavior right now? Make sense? Good. That makes sense?
Well, approaching that behavior as well, if you obviously don't want to cry.
Yeah.
From a management standpoint, who comes in that, or no, I'm fine, right?
Oh, you can cry.
Okay. What's the appropriate?
I mean, within reason, it's not, I mean, the way that I would ask that question, if it wasn't answered, is, okay, well, you're at work right now. It's clear that something's wrong. You don't got to tell me what it is, but how do we solve it? And then, I mean, that's the most important thing, because it is affecting work. It's like when someone comes in and they're fighting with their girlfriend constantly or something like that, and they're constantly miserable because that is my business. You know what I'm saying? That is my business. Unfortunately, I don't want it to be. You know what I'm saying? I don't want it to, but it is. And I don't care how you solve it. I don't care what. Like, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I can tell you that it can't come here. You know what I'm saying? Because that's going to affect everybody else here as well, right? So that's where I'd say that it is your business. If somebody comes in there and they're just in a miserable mood, right? and you go, hey, what's wrong? You know, what's going on? No, nothing. Okay, well, you know, are you sure? Because you seem like you're in a negative mood. No, I'm fine. Okay, well, look, I'll tell you this, man, I'm not gonna dive, you know, I mean, if you need somebody to talk to, I'm here. But I'm not gonna dive into that with you. But I'll tell you what, I can't have you in the van like this today. You know what I'm saying? I damn sure can't deal with that, right? So that's the way that I'd approach that. Make sense? Any questions? No? Okay. All right, cool. Tony and I got stuff that we got to do at 12 o'clock. It's 11:55 right now, so we're gonna get off here. I'll talk to you guys soon. I'll see you guys on Monday, or no, Dylan, I'll see you tomorrow, right? You gotta come. You have to be there. You gonna be there? Yes, exactly. Excellent. Are you coming, Caleb? Excellent. All right, cool. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow then.